Good afternoon. Welcome to Duke Kunshan University. I'm Dr. Jill Creighton. I'm the Dean of Student Affairs, and we are so thrilled that your family has chosen for your student to come to school here. For this session, you can hear we are using consecutive interpretation, so we appreciate your patience as we work to serve parents in both Chinese and English. It's my sincere pleasure to introduce you to our first speaker, the Chancellor of Duke Kunshan University, Professor Feng Youmei.
Good afternoon, everyone. Because we have Chinese parents and the international parents, maybe speak English international can understand, but I'm not so sure if Chinese parents can understand quite well. But actually, I know for the parents at your age, your generation, maybe your English is all very good. But fortunately, we have the translation online. So maybe I sometimes speak Chinese, sometimes I speak English. In that way, I just give you perception, and then international parents come here, you know, oh, this chancellor can talk with us without any difficulty. And the Chinese parents also say, oh, this chancellor, yeah, also can speak good Chinese, okay?
Okay, so I'll switch to Chinese mainly, and basically for the parents here, this is the first time that you send your children to our campus. But for me, the parents are not new to me, because Luke has actually intentionally organized 6 events, among which I actually attended 4 events. So I guess we didn't really have directly in-person interaction, but I do have contact with most of the parents.
Firstly, I would like to welcome our international parents for over past 3 years pandemic situation. So now you finally can, at the very beginning day, you send your kids here. Our class 2025, 2026, oh, they almost study 1 year, even 1.5 abroad, without knowing what is the look of the campus. So in that way, you are so lucky. I'm so appreciate, even with such a challenging time, political situation, or just past the pandemic, and DKU is new. But we have 2 sessions of successful undergraduate student graduation. So thanks for you send your kids here.
Well, for the Chinese parents, I guess you have more knowledge about our campus, and you've been to the campus before. Well, I think we can reflect and think about the class 2018 before the pandemic. So our first undergraduate class and the second undergraduate class, they have integrated with the international students and the campus very well. And indeed, I should say that the 3 years of pandemic has an impact on the integration of the students, the student bodies in the campus. I think what I want to say is that, due to the pandemic, we were affected, but now we would like to really return back to our true intention, which is to have this international university and to have a diverse culture in our campus. So I think maybe this morning, some of the students and parents attended our 10th anniversary event, and I also gave a summary, an overview of what we have achieved in the past 10 years. So basically, I think I don't have time to elaborate everything here. We have a lot of events going on today, and also we are soon going to have these tripartite discussion between the Wuhan University, Duke University, and also Kunshan. So I'm sure you understand that in this cooperation, due to the pandemic, there has been changes of the leadership from the different sides, and then it's been quite difficult to get together over the past 3 years. So this is also a very good opportunity to further renew and discuss the cooperation. Okay, so tomorrow afternoon, we are also going to have this inauguration ceremony of our class, and I will deliver a speech there. As an administrator of the university, every year I deliver a speech in the inauguration ceremony. Basically, what I speak is a little bit different every year, but the key message is that we hope that your children can integrate into our campus and can grow here and can also eventually face the world and embrace the world. So in the 4 events that I attended with all of you, I also highlighted this point. And today I would like to highlight this point again. I think it's important that you care for your children, but also letting go slowly, because they are coming here to the university. They are not coming to the university with you. Of course, you can grow with them in this process, but children should be the key player in this process, and they should be able to follow the procedures to handle all of these things related to their university life. So don't worry that they might suffer a loss, or they might, encounter some difficulties, and don't feel heartbroken if they suffer some setbacks and etc. So I think as parents, you need to learn this in particular, starting from this point is very important. So tomorrow we'll have more opportunities to see each other, and there will be also more opportunities in the future. So DKU will definitely be very supportive. And lastly, I would like to say that thank you for choosing DKU, supporting DKU, and growing together with DKU. I'm sure we'll have a really prosperous and bright future. Thank you.
Next, I'm very thrilled to introduce you to our Dean of International Student Enrollment. Her name is Jessica Sandberg, and she is based in Durham, North Carolina, where Duke University sits. She has a video message for us. It does have subtitles in Chinese, so we won't be doing translation of her message directly, as you'll be able to read it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, families of the class of 2027. Welcome to Kunshan, welcome to China, and most importantly, welcome to DKU. I regret that I cannot be here with you today in person, but I am there in heart and spirit, and I am really delighted that I can greet you all today through this video message. Some of you may already know me as the person that leads admissions for international students at DKU. And because of that, I know that it has been a long and challenging admissions journey. And I don't just mean for the students, I mean for all of you parents as well. And I don't just mean the weeks and the months of college applications. I know that all of you in this room have spent years helping your students in this journey. You have cheered for them, you have supported them along the way, helped them with homework, you have probably reminded them and nagged them at times. You have driven them to all the places that they needed to be, whether that was sports or music or summer programs. This is your success too. Take a moment to congratulate yourself for getting to today. And there may be no better example of your success than the experience that you're having right now this week. Look around you. Parents of international students, especially those that are in this room, look at yourselves. Here you sit in a land far from home, navigating in a language that is not your own, and you're surrounded by parents of students who hail from more than 30 countries. Their children share the courage, curiosity, and ambition just like your own child. And together, your students will embark on a 4-year global academic experience unlike any other. I have said this before in some of my earlier remarks, but I want to say it again. We have an incredibly talented new class of students this year, and we are very fortunate to have them. They have outstanding academic accomplishments, yes, but also impressive humanitarian contributions, community works, research, and entrepreneurship. We are so fortunate that these students, your children, will be walking our halls and shaping our traditions and ultimately bringing laurels to our institution for many years to come. So yes, This admissions journey has ended, but the big voyage has only just begun. It has been an honor to lead your children to the front door, but this is also the sad moment where I have to step aside and let our talented student affairs colleagues guide you through the next steps in this journey. In particular, I want to acknowledge our two parent coordinators, Jen Koek, who leads parent communication with parents of international students, and Stephanie Wang, who leads Chinese parent communication. These will be your primary contacts in the years ahead. But until then, enjoy Kunshan, enjoy DKU, and most of all, enjoy this milestone. You have earned it. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
And to continue our welcome, it's my pleasure to welcome to the stage our Dean of Chinese Student Enrollment, Dr. Luke Lee.
Thank you. I'm usually quite talkative, but today I'm fully aware that I'm not in a leading role, so my talk will be very brief. I only want to talk about three things. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your trust in DKU and your children's trust in DKU. It is your trust and your children's trust in DKU that makes this institution meaningful and makes our job meaningful. And second, I want to say congratulations. It is not an easy job to get admitted by Kunshan University. So you should be very proud of what your children have achieved. The third thing I want to talk about is from today, from this moment, please give your children the freedom of making their own choices. Respect their choices and offer your unconditional love and the support always. I'm sure they will have a wonderful time at Kunshan University. But there will be moments when they feel challenged, frustrated, or confused. They will make mistakes and they will struggle. But we should keep it in mind that this is also how they grow and become stronger. So don't worry. All they need to do is to reach out. There will be so many people around them who are willing to help. That's all I want to say. Again, congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. So this is going to be a theme that you hear from us fairly consistently as your time evolves as a parent of an adult. And that is probably a really weird thing for you to hear for the first time. You are now officially the parent of an adult. So the next part of my presentation will be on the theme of staying connected and letting go. And what that means is, how do we stay anchored to our strong relationships as a family, and at the same time figuring out what it does mean to let your adult student fly out of the nest. So the next part of the presentation will focus on that topic and give you some information on the research that has been done on what successful traits of parents of college students are. So here we've done our best to translate the slides in multiple languages. Thank you in advance to Lu Yongru, one of our talented team members who's helped me translate. In addition to academic success, which is goal number one, we have two other main goals for your students. The first is that they will develop independent decision-making and develop personal agency for their choices. And the second is to prepare your student not only for an independent life, but also for what future graduate study might look like or feel like in the United Kingdom or the United States. Over 90% of our class of 2023 got offers to prestigious graduate study around the world, and we are so thrilled for them. And we also know that's very possible for your student, though that might feel very far away right now. There are some significant differences between the way a university communicates with you as a family versus how you might have experienced it in the K through 12 or high school environment. First and foremost, we are going to communicate directly with your student to address any concerns or support, and also to help them solve problems. And so if you as a parent let us know that your student has a concern, our first message to you will be help them get in touch with us so we can work with them directly. You are probably very used to having open access to conversations with your students' teachers, to their report cards, to their tuition bills. And all of that changes in college, where we are preparing your student to become a fully fledged independent adult, which means they are the ones that have direct access to this information, and they get to choose whether or not to share it with you. So in echoing both Chancellor Fung and Dr. Lee's message about allowing your students to take the reins from here forward, we're also going to ask that you put trust that your student will communicate to you when they need support. We're going to operate through what I call a not about them without them philosophy, which means that if we're having a conversation about your student, they also have to be part of that conversation. I want to share a little bit about what your student is going to experience across the next semester. Just like when we travel on a vacation or when we visit a new country or even a new city, we might experience culture shock. And your college student is also about to experience culture shock, adjusting to their new environment. And especially if your student is in China for the first time, that culture shock will be both to college and adjusting to life in China. So you can see on our graph here, we have mood high and low on the y-axis and time on the x-axis. So right now we're all in this honeymoon phase. Everyone is super excited to be here, and we know that this is going to be really a good time. And then as we start to adjust to our new environment, that mood, it's very normal for it to drop a little bit. So right around our first midterm exams, which is about 4 weeks from now, and right as we hit our first adjustment into kind of the weather changing, which is about 6 to 8 weeks from now, we often see first-year students go through a time where they wonder, am I in the right place? I want to remind you that is completely normal for your student to wonder if I'm in the right place or I've made the right decision to be in college. We are here to support them through that component of transition. It's something that we expect and something that we have resources to support your student through. Then we see as we go forward in time, we recover, we adjust, and then we figure out probably in about 6 to 10 weeks from now that yes, this is right. I feel good. I understand, and I know what I'm doing. And at this point, their mentality, your student's mentality changes from my home is where my parents live to my home is where DKU is. Then comes then comes National Week holiday and winter break, where we go back into reverse culture shock. This is the time when they go back to your home for the first time since being a college student. In that time, they've developed independent lives away from the core family unit. And so when they come home to you, you've only been apart for, like I said, somewhere between 6 and 10 weeks. And your life has probably been still going to work and doing your personal activities and things, but your student's living a whole different life. And that can cause some tension at home. So that's something I like to warn families about in advance. That's also very normal. So the number one question that I often get is, what can I do to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a parent to make my student the most successful they can be? And we have several psychologists who have studied this phenomenon on what makes a successful parent of a college student. You can see our citations below here. So when we're asking you to make sure that you're providing the freedom that your now adult student needs to be successful, it's not just because we think it's a good idea. It's because that psychological research shows that makes them more successful in school. So 3 things for you as a parent to keep in mind. Keep your standards high for your student, but not impossible. Provide emotional support and that unconditional love so that they know that if there is a struggle, that they can always come to you. And third, engage in bidirectional communication. So it's not just about you providing your wisdom for your student, but your student can tell you what they've learned in return. So our psychological studies show if families can do this, their students are far more likely to be optimistic. They're about academic success and also self-efficacious. And that means that they're going to grow into whole, happy adults in theory. So how can you support your student really? We want you to provide perspective and light direction to encourage them to think about solving the problem. And I'm going to give you some very specific examples of this when we get to the next slide. So you now have a shift in your role as a parent. You've gone from being their teammate or their coach to now being their cheerleader. Raise your hand if you think your teenager no longer listens to you. It's a lot of you.
还挺多的。
I ask this because that is what most parents of college students think. But our research actually shows that your voice still very much matters in their world and in their lives, even if you think it's really hard to give a message now. So it's a balancing act because you worked so hard your whole lives to make sure your student can get to this moment. And now we ask for your trust and support as we help them move from young adult to fully fledged adult. So a couple of ways that are really helpful for you as a parent to interact. The first is to encourage your student to engage in help-seeking behaviors on their own. So whereas before you might have done something on their behalf, now we want you to help them figure out how to do that thing. The next thing, and it might feel a little weird or counterintuitive, is to ask your student their permission to give them some advice. Our psychological research shows that all people, young adults, older adults, the like, receive advice better if they have agreed to receive it first. And we want you to establish a communication pattern that works for both you and your student. Every year, I have a parent who says, Dean Creighton, I think my student is missing. And I say, okay, let's work through that. Let's figure out where they are. And then I find out inevitably every year, that student is not missing. They just didn't want to talk to their parent. All right. So we do want you to remain a safety net for your college student, as we've mentioned. And if something is truly a crisis, we will make sure that we are connecting with families as appropriate if it is a real crisis. So I know the text is very small, but if you take a picture of one slide, this whole presentation, let it be this one. So these are examples of what it might have sounded like when your student was in high school, when they had a challenge, compared to what it might sound like now that they're in university. So at first, in the high school setting, you're that student's teammate, right? You're asking them how you can advocate for them on their behalf. Maybe it's with a teacher. If they have a problem with their teacher, you might figure out a plan for your student. But in college, it's your responsibility to encourage them to talk to their professor on their own. There are two things I strongly encourage you to do as a parent of a college student to help create that independence quickly. The first is to teach your student how to make a medical appointment on their own and have them go to that medical appointment on their own without your direct being there with them. The second thing is making sure that they know how to do their own laundry. The last university I worked at, the school colors were white and red, and you could always tell the new students because their clothes were always pink. The other thing I want you to pay attention to here is moving from task manager to bidirectional communication partner. For your entire young adult's life, you've probably been asking them, did you brush your teeth? Did you study? Did you limit your screen time on your video game? And you're not going to be here to do that on a daily basis anymore. So my request of you is that you move from being a task manager of your students' daily life into asking open-ended questions about their experiences. And I know that's going to be really hard at first to ask them if they brush their teeth, but it's a critical element of them deciding to do that on their own. I eat in the canteen with our students almost every weekday, and I do promise you that they voluntarily eat their own vegetables. So I'm going to put forward 4 challenges for you as a family member. My first challenge is for at least the next 4 weeks, do not text or contact your student until they text you first. Raise your hand if that feels almost impossible. Most of you.
大部分都觉得
I promise that will be one of the first things you can do to show that you respect your students' independence, but also tell them you're doing that. Otherwise, they might think you abandoned them. Challenge number 2 is to ask mostly open-ended questions about your students' experiences instead of asking about whether they completed tasks. Challenge number 3 is to leave space for self-efficacy. When your student comes to you with a challenge, do your best to give advice on how they can seek answers, but don't answer it for them. Give me a hand raise if this is your first student to go to college or your only student to go to college in your family. Almost everybody. So this means this is a major life adjustment for you too. And I think most parents forget about that till they get home and they realize that their student's bedroom is no longer with their student in it. So if there's a hobby you've always wanted to learn, or maybe a second or third language you wanted to pick up, or maybe you really want to exercise more, now is the time to do that for you. I once had a family tell me, well, Dean Jill, our college student is the one who cooks all of our dinners. So now someone's going to have to learn how to cook. So please take it for yourselves that this is a time of transition, not just for your student, but for you too. So because of time, I'm going to do this very quickly. We have a number of expectations for your student. I'm not going to go through them all, but I will say the number one thing we need your student to do from here on out is to check their DKU email. And then just to touch on communication with families. We require written permission from your student to share pretty much anything about their university experience with you. This is a privacy law that exists in many parts of the world, but specifically here at DKU, we use the Duke version of privacy. We ask that families try to reach out by email first and foremost, and we have 2 parent communicators. The first is Wang Hangju Stephanie. Do you want to stand and wave? Wang Hangju primarily works with Chinese-speaking parents and is based here in Kunshan, so observes Chinese holidays. And for our international families, we have Jen Koek, who is based in North Carolina, and so she observes US schedule and US holidays, but is also responsible for all information in the International Student DKU Parent Hub. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful Associate Vice-Chancellor for Undergraduate Studies and the Language and Culture Center, Dr. Marcia France.
All right. Well, first of all, welcome. We're very excited to have you and your students here at DKU. So as parents, you really are our partners in helping your students make this transition from students and childhood to adult. And that goes in the academic realm as well as in the personal realm. So there are several ways that you can really help us manage expectations and support your students. The first one is as much for you as it is for them, which is contextualizing the DKU interdisciplinary liberal arts curriculum. So a DKU liberal arts education allows students to balance breadth more broadly along with the depth of the deeper study within their major. And some students show up knowing exactly what it is they want to study and have planned this for years. Others really have absolutely no idea what they want to do. But we often find that even those who came in knowing what they want, when they really start taking other classes, learn that there are all kinds of other things they never even thought of that they find interesting. So your students will be taking all kinds of courses beyond their major. And I really ask you, instead of having and helping them, instead of feeling like they're not getting as much depth in their majors, to really think about how the liberal arts is really enriching and contextualizing their major. It's not distracting from it. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands after we finish with the translation. How many of you are still doing a job directly related to your undergraduate major if you went to college, or your first job if you did not? Now, okay. So if you look around the room, it's maybe about 25%, which means there's an awful lot of people here who are doing something different now than they thought they were going to be at the age your students are now. Okay, this is going to sound shocking to you, but when your students graduate in 2027, they're not going to be retiring till sometime around 2070. So our goal is to prepare your students not just for their first job, but really for all of the jobs throughout their lifetime in an ever-changing world. We're teaching them the transferable skills that are going to help them adapt to whatever their future holds. So my second big point, again, we've been talking about the adjustments that your students are going to have to make. And so I want to talk about the adjustments both you and your students are going to have to make to academic culture here at DKU. So first, we have small classes because we value close personal interactions between students and faculty. But what that means is that your student might not get all the classes they want in this first semester. And I want to reassure you that is absolutely fine. There is not a single major at DKU that they cannot select, regardless of what courses they end up taking this first semester. And it's actually not unusual for a student to get stuck taking a class they don't want to take and then realizing that they absolutely love that subject and it changes the whole direction of where they want to go and what they want to do. At DKU, our semesters are divided into 7-week sessions. So a typical academic course load is going to be 2 or 2.5 courses at a time. That's going to seem really different from what they're used to in high school. It's not going to be as many hours in the classroom as they're used to, but part of what they need to realize is that inside and outside of the classroom time should still be occupying them effectively full time. Your students will also find that their courses here are likely very different from what they are used to in high school. For example, our courses, or a lot of high school courses, often emphasize memorization of facts and recitation. We are actually asking your students to learn how to think, create, analyze, and apply their knowledge. And so it's a very different approach to studying than they may be used to. They might even think that they know something, they've seen it before or studied it in high school, but very often we're going to push them much deeper than they have looked at it before. And they don't always realize that. And so we need to kind of help them understand what's different here than in their past. And just as you heard from Dean Jill, what this means is that they will have trouble at times navigating the system. They will face challenges that they're not used to. And part of what you want to do is help encourage your students to find their own solutions to solve these problems. And we have so many resources here to help them. And all of our faculty are at DKU because they want to work with undergraduate students. So their first resource is their faculty, but we have many other resources that they will learn about during orientation week to help them when they run into these difficulties. The DKU education is about actual learning, not grades. And this is an area you're going to really have to rescale your expectations. So very few straight A students, almost all of our students rather, were straight A students in high school. They were at the top of their class. But by definition, half of our students here, half of your students are going to have to be in the bottom half of the class here. It's going to be very different. They're going to have to adjust those expectations. You can be our partners in helping your students understand that a B is still a really good grade, and even getting some C's or some lower grades are fine as well. And graduate schools, if we are offering a rigorous, high quality education here at Duke Quinshon University, graduate schools, employers do not expect every student to have straight A's. So really, it is okay if they have a range of grades. That is part of the expectation at the college level. A student can actually learn more in a class that they get a B or C in than one that they get an A in. And one of the ways that I like to think about it and help both students and parents understand this is if you think about something like figure skating at the Olympics that we had a summer ago, or last winter, I guess. You will see Olympic figure skaters fall all the time. It's not because they're not good skaters. It's because they're pushing themselves to the limit. They're trying new things. They're getting out of their comfort zone. And that is an important part of the educational process as well. Many of your students are going to be studying in a new language or a new country, a new culture, a different educational system, even different types of approaches in the classroom. Setbacks are normal. They are part of the experience. And so we are all partners in helping students build that resiliency and make it past those setbacks and know how they can recover for them. And again, we have many support resources on campus to help them with that. I'll also add that I think, one of the experiences that some students have when they're struggling with difficult work, and they're getting desperate and they've put pressure on themselves over grades. And if they're feeling strong pressure from families over grades, sometimes that leads to a temptation to cheat on something. And again, it's important to emphasize our education is not about grades. It's about the learning, and there are no shortcuts to learning. And next week, your students are all going to be asked to sign the DKU community standard, and we'll talk about the importance of academic integrity. Now, you've already heard from Dean Jill that we do not share students' educational records with you as family. This is something that is an important part of US law, and because we give the Duke degree, it is also something that we honor here at DKU. So please do not ask us directly to share grades. We will be sharing with your students instructions on how they can delegate access to you so that you can access their records. But this will be a conversation between you and them, whether they're willing to do that. And that's something that is solely between them and you. And so we won't ever share those grades, but if they choose to, they can make them available to you. So in closing, I just wanted to say, encourage your students to take full advantage of everything that DKU has to offer, to reflect on the college experience, to really help them better realize their dreams and their goals. Outside the classroom is as important as what's happening inside the classroom. Internships, class activities, getting involved in clubs, doing research, forging relationships with students from all over the world, confronting different viewpoints that they may never have thought of before or that challenge long-held beliefs. That is part of what our DKU education is about. So you are really instrumental in helping encourage your students to get the most out of their DKU education, to try new things, to challenge themselves, to test their limits. And you're also instrumental partners in helping them when they reach those inevitable setbacks, to help them pick up those pieces and figure out how do they move on. We wish you and your students all the best as they venture into the next phase of their lives. And now I have the pleasure to welcome Gary Gu from our Development and Alumni Office.
Thank you, Marsha. Good afternoon. My name is Gary Gu Haozhe. I'm from the Development and Alumni Relations team. As everybody else speak before me, I would like to congratulate to your kids for getting through high school and entering DKU, and also welcome you guys as DKU parents to join our family. I was actually here to talk about how DKU parents is an important part of our community. But before I get to that, let me talk about something else first. I know today you guys are extremely proud for the achievement of your kids, for the achievement of your students, getting through the college, getting to DKU, as I said. But at the same time, I assume there's a little bit of sentiment of anxious, uncertain, as your kids, as your students will probably leave you for the first time of their life to study in an environment where they know nobody to start with, and in a different city, different province, or even in some cases in a different country. And I guess some part of that uncertainty, anxious, is because of people are saying, okay, as your student grow into a highly capable young adult, they'll contact you less, they'll start their own journey, You kind of afraid them drifting away. But let me assure you, parents are still the most important supporter to their children. I cannot count how many times, must be hundreds of times. Students come to me and start their sentence by, my parents says. So stay calm and support your children as they embark the exciting journey for the next 4 years. Your students will reach out to you for support, not only for asking for more allowances, but ask you to support them and encourage them. And also, I can assure you that your students are now in great hands with Dean Jill's team, with Dean Marshall's team, and also from our faculty and staff. We are all here to support. And also, the students, their classmates they're meeting today, the faculties they are going to meet will be their extended family members, always be there to support them for the rest of their life. For example, my team, we support hundreds of students and faculty through scholarship, through research fund we raised, and through the opportunities and connections we help to pull from our loyal DKU and Duke alumni from all over the world. And parents is a big part of it. So I invite you to be a DKU advocate, to talk about what it's like to study at DKU, what it's like to be a DKU parent, to be a volunteer, or to be a donor to support DKU. We have received great support from parents. I bet some of the parents here are DKU parents because you talk to a fellow parent from a DKU upperclassman. We have parents take students to Siemens where she works to show our students what it's like to work in a company, to work in a real industry. We have parents support us through Parents Fund to fund a team of students to participate in the top international biology competition for 3 years in a row. And we have parents introduce career opportunities, internship, full-time jobs, and info session, field trip opportunities to us to help our students to find the path they like, find the work they like. Your students may not choose to work or continue their study in the city you come from or in the country you come from. So the support from each of you guys are extremely important to the collective success of our students. I invite every parent to be part of this ecosystem to support the success of our students. You can indicate to us how you'd like to be part of this force to ensure the success of our students. Tell us what you would like to support, and we will reach out to you individually. I wish you all the best to you and to your students for the next 4 years. And I hope that as you come back in 4 years for the commencement of your student, you will be even more proud than you are today. Thank you.
So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will move to you with the microphone.
非常感谢校长给这么一个提问机会。我们是一个很欣赏杜克大学的这种通识教育，但是现在面对问题是孩子他确实没有什么明确的专业方向，所以这是我们选择杜克大学很重要的一个原因。想听听那个校长包括院长，您对这个孩子目前没有明确的专业方向，能给什么建议吗？
Thank you for this opportunity to raise the question. So basically, we admire and really appreciate the approach of education in the Duke University and the DKU. But right now, my child still does not have any direction as to what the major to choose in the future. So do you have any suggestions on that? Now, basically, the child does not have any clue about what major to choose.
That is one of the strengths of the DKU educational system, is that your student does not need to know what it is that they want to do when they walk in the door. They won't need to choose a major until the spring of their second year. And so during the next year and a half, they're really encouraged to explore broadly, to take courses that they think might interest them. We will be giving them guidance over the next few days in terms of talking about what kind of majors we have. They're going to have opportunities to talk to faculty representing each of those majors. There's also, we divide our curriculum into kind of broader areas of arts and humanities, social sciences, and natural sciences. And there's foundational courses in each of those areas that are a great starting point if they want to just explore those directions in a very broad sense. They will also have the opportunity to take our Common Core courses, which is another way that they could explore new and interesting things. So don't worry, we will provide them a lot of guidance, and they'll have lots of opportunities to be exposed to different things before they have to make that decision.
Mhm.
All right, we have time for probably 1 or 2 more questions.
谢谢给机会提问啊。那么，因为我了解到本一届新的本科生的规模相比较之前是大了一些，对吧？然后随着疫情的结束，那么之前的这个线上教学也全部转换成为线下教学了。然后我想了解一下，就是DKU 在师资力量的组织和招聘上面啊，相比较之前有没有做得更好一些的地方？那么也想了解一下，就是从美国杜克大学委派的师资力量能占到多少的百分比？谢谢。
Well, thank you for this opportunity. And basically, we see that the size of the undergraduate students for this, for this intake is bigger than before. So now the pandemic is over. So all the online courses have also been converted into offline or in-person courses. So I want to understand the situation of the faculty and also recruitment of the faculties. So how has it been going on? Is it commensurate with these increased size of the undergraduate students? And then secondly, I also want to understand, what proportion of faculty that is who actually come from the Duke University.
So our faculty has grown significantly over the past few years to keep up with the growth in our student body. So when I began here, about 2 weeks before the first undergraduates arrived, we had 22 undergraduate faculty and a small number of language faculty and graduate faculty. We now have close to 200 faculty, and about 2/3 of them are from all over the world. Maybe about 1/3 of them are from China. So faculty recruiting has been fantastic. And I think we really have a wonderful, fabulous group of faculty.
I will also add that we expect our undergraduate class size to continue to rise until we get to about 500 per undergraduate class. So the class of 27 that all of your students are in is about 400. So we do anticipate at the time your students are seniors, they will probably be the smallest class.
Right, but our recruiting for faculty, the building of the new campuses you've seen have been designed with the steady state in mind. I'll also add, we do have a handful of faculty who, for various reasons, have not been able to come to China. In particular, that includes some of our visiting Duke faculty, where it is more of a challenge for them to come for short periods of time. And so there will be a small number of courses that will be offered in online instruction, but those are all cases the students will be here. It will no longer be the hybrid mode. To answer your broader question about how many are Duke faculty are hired through a process that includes Duke faculty on the hiring committees. They're involved in the review process, in the making the decisions. And so I'm proud to say that all of our faculty are Duke quality faculty.
So thank you again for attending. We're thrilled to have you. Welcome to DKU.